Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Extreme Studios inside the Pine Hills Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. That's Central Florida for the late folks, site of GTA 5, which is a little bit of South Florida. But from the great Midwest, I have with me tonight, RDV, and tonight we're tackling some girls with guns type martial arts action. The Inspector Wears Skirts. And RDV, this is a first watch for me. There's a couple great prints out there. I do like how some of these old ones are getting the Blu-ray Criterion type treatment, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
They look good. I saw this one on Tubi. It's on Internet Archive. I was interested in this because it was billed to me as not only a Jackie Chan production, but the American equivalent of the Police Academy, the stupid ass movies, but with a bunch of chicks who kick ass, and that's Cynthia Rothrock in it. So I said, sign me up. It's an interesting film. There's some scenes that I was very impressed by. I don't know if we've seen a film like this other than maybe like Lady Bloodfight, which is a bit more serious, but this is definitely, I think, representative of late 80s Hong Kong cinema, especially like as you and I have tried diving into the female martial arts too. What's your initial take? And was it a first watch for you too?
First watch for me, going into this, watching it, it's basically, we have Sibelle Hu. I'm probably butchering her first name, but it's Sibelle.
Mm-hmm.
Last name is Hu. She is basically Madame Wu in this. She's hired to basically put a team called Skirts. If you're watching now, that's if you're watching the Inspector Wears Skirts, regular like Cantonese version. If you're watching the US version, you know they're just called the Women Commandos. Which I watched the English version, which is called Top Squad.
Okay.
Yes, and they bill as Sibelle Hu and Cynthia Rothrock be the main stars in this. Even though Cynthia Rothrock was in the beginning, and then you don't really see her towards the end of the movie. Sibelle Hu carries the movie. Basically, Hong Kong police captain, and if you once you see this actor, you're right. Forgive me, I don't know his name, but you'll see him, recognize him. He's in pretty much every Hong Kong movie or action movie that has to do with either Jackie Chan or Sammo Hung, or even the Yes Madam series. You know, he's always in there, and he's
ACPD's trainer is in here too later on in the disco scene.
So basically, the goal was, let's take a bunch of women, these are kind of women, narcissists, pretty girls, nervous nellies, and train them into be a fighting women's, basically women's squad, and it's
this was the Expendables.
Yeah. Well, no, better than Expendables.
But the last one.
Honestly, though, so if you don't recognize Sibelle Hu, she's the one, the very main up there next to Cynthia Khan in there. She's in the uniform. She is actually from My Lucky Stars.
Yep, which we reviewed here on the Extreme Movie Show.
Reviewed on there, and wow, I just forget every time I see her how pretty she is.
Natural glow to her.
Yes. And you get you get to see at the very beginning, you get to see her and Cynthia Khan. They're there to protect this Arab sheik who is visiting Hong Kong, and with his wife. These ninjas, basically, because basically they're shooting a movie.
We've got to talk about this. Yeah, let's dive.
Yeah, I love this. So these ninjas, guys dressed as ninjas, and their whole thing is they're gonna bump off, the Arab sheik, and his wife, and I love how they put on the ninja garb stuff. They kill the guards in there. And then there's this huge shootout, and just chase scene with grenades, and kicks, and Cynthia Rothrock and Sibelle Hu pursuing these guys. One of them goes up the flagpole. That's the one you like. It's exploding ninjas. Holy crap!
Let's pause for a second here because again, I was thinking it was going to be like a comedy action, which whatever, and I didn't know what to expect with it being dominated by women, but. Earlier tonight, live on the Extreme Movie Show, the young 20-something Professor Pix and I reviewed Season 1, Episode 4 of Columbo. And it's got Ross Martin from the Wild Wild West in it. It was a phenomenal episode. And what happens at the very beginning, you get a death of somebody and then a cover-up, and then Columbo comes in. Within less than 1 minute, literally, this artist gets shot, and then there's a temper tantrum, and things happen, and the episode goes on. So I'd watch that. Then I go to watch this movie. So I'm having a nice little doubleheader. And to your point, we get Cynthia Rothrock early on. We get everything that you and I have talked about. We want in action films, people doing stuff through action. You get Cynthia in here. I think there's some wire work, obvious, and it might be sped up slightly. It's no less impressive with some of the stuff in here. but I didn't know whether to take this opening a bit serious because these are what I call from the 80s the Merc ninjas. They just dress up like ninja. They're not really ninja, but they're using some grenades and explosives. And her and the other girl, they do this thing with the guy, and it's a great shootout, even though I'm not a fan of guns and martial arts movies. But they somehow lasso the guy onto this flagpole, jump up, but he was pulling the pin out of grenades, holding it, and then throwing it, right? And so when they did it and he blew up, this is the level of Baxter being punted off the bridge and Anchorman, Ron Burgundy, right? And it's so bad and so fake, but I laughed my ass off. I'm like, oh my God, is this going to be this kind of movie?
Honestly, that's Canon Films.
You are right. This was not Canon Films, but you're right. That is Canon Films.
And that's what it kind of felt like a Canon Films movie, you know. You had a little comedy. You had the two main stars, you know, basically it was with obviously Sibelle, and then you had Cynthia Rothrock in there, and basically the team of them basically actually worked together to train these women, and I love it. There's the training session with between both these ladies, because Madame Wu and then there's Madame Law, Cynthia Rothrock, totally different styles.
Yep.
Madame Wu is a little more lenient on them, and Cynthia Rothrock is like, hell no. I want you to take three girls, stand on these piece of wood, and then you're like, they're standing, and she's stepping on. Why is this red stuff in here? And they realize it's like, you know, I forget what they called it, but it's like basically a flammable liquid. And Madame Law basically Cynthia Rothrock lights it, and they're like, no, run. And you're like, oh shit, they're being chased by the flames. And I love it. He's like, and I love at the end, and she's like, they're all over like leaning over. One girl, her feet were on fire. Yep. They put it out, and it's like, oh my God. She's like, I bet you never ran that fast in your life before. And I just love it. You know, the fight scene where they're trying to kidnap her on the cargo ship.
The action in here when we get it,
it is great.
It's phenomenal.
But it's a lot of drama, comedy, as you say, like Police Academy. There's some stuff, there's some hijinks. The boys, because there's the Tiger Squad, the guys who kind of look down on the women. They think they're there to the date. Even the commander is kind of a goofball, wanting to date Sibelle Hu. And I mean, so it's the 80s, you know. The whole main goal was basically wanted to create a women's team, even though everyone else was objected, but the captain of the police, you know, Hong Kong said, no, it's time to let women join the force. You can see a little bit of feminist kind of there, but it didn't really bother me as much because this is the movie you're going to get. This is the Hong Kong.
It's just a setup. Yeah, it's not pertinent to the story.
No, it wasn't a virtue signal like you beat today.
Exactly.
And you get to see these different girls' personalities. There's one girl in here, I forgot her, I can't remember what her name is in here, but she's considered like the ugly one.
She's not ugly.
No, she's not.
They think she's got like 5 extra pounds or something. I'm like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
They're all good looking in their own way.
Yeah.
They can all stand to eat a sandwich or two, but they're very lean and muscular too when you see them working out.
Obviously the bad guy at the end, he's the shirtless blonde guy, and you get this fight scene between him and most of the girls there, and then
we're going to talk about Chad.
Oh my gosh,
Peroxide Boy.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The little weird stuff is like, it was just like so cringe. But other than that, though, it said this is one of 3 movies. I think it's a trilogy.
I think it's 4 or 5, to be honest with you,
something like that. But I actually am looking forward to watching the second one. Although Cynthia Rothrock does not come back to the second one.
Right.
Because I guess this was filmed 88, so this was, I believe, right after she did the Magic Crystal. So,
right around that time frame, so she's definitely breaking up. Yeah.
So what was really great about this is because it's Cynthia Rothrock, and you know how she is when we walk in a room and there's a bunch of weapons.
Yes.
That you know what's going to happen. She picks up the sword. You got sword fighting. You got kicks. You got just a bunch of hijinks, women trying to basically tackle guys, and beat them up. There's a real cool scene where one jumps in the other one's hands, another one climbs up, and they climb. Let's get to the second floor balcony to take out the 2 dudes. They're the guns. I mean, there's some cool stunts in this.
What they did do well here, the drama part to it, because that's what threw me off, to be honest with you, is that, so we get all these elite level ladies, and again, they're being formed into a commando team. So the way guys are going to act, there's a guy group that's in here and involved in a story, but not really. Mm-hmm. They're there just to fill out some loose ends. What do women do? Well, they bond differently than guys. So you see that here because you got like the 2 mean girls that you got the main bitch and her whatever people they pick on, and for a while this goes on, and they do like some training stuff like running up gravel, carrying rocks. And you know what? When you're looking at that, that's not physically. You look at it and you're like, wow, that's not 40 super kicks, right? or a bunch of V triggers. But if you've ever done any hiking, even under flatland at that angle, that shit'll break you. So the fact that these women are carrying these rocks, and I believe the majority of the time they are doing their own stunts. I don't know the names of the other ones and how popular they were, but they all looked fit. They looked appropriate for the role. And I was like, I don't remember seeing a movie like this with a bunch of women or the main cast. So that's another intriguing thing about it.
The one girl, I forgot, like I said, she's the one she talk about. She's kind of like the frumpy looking one,
Yep.
They're like, because the whole task was like put rocks in each other's backpacks. They're in a circle, and so one girl puts a heavy rock in the other girl, and it's a joke. Then she does it with the girl in front of her, and then the other one's like, "What the heck?" The frumpy girl. So she grabs this big rock, but then Madame Wu's like, "Stand up with the rocks in your hand and go up the hill." And she's like, "You kidding me?" She's got this huge freaking rock. She has to carry it up, and everyone's passing her because she will say something and then put her foot in her mouth, but then her character is interesting because it stands out for the rest of them.
Exactly. There was almost too many women.
So they go to a roller skate park, so
the guys are like,
yeah,
they're bad mouthing all the guys, right? They don't see anything good about them, like typical women.
Yep.
And then the guy's like, "Hey, we're gonna go do this," and that was smart. They didn't say, "Hey, please come with us." And so what do the chicks do? Because they're thirsty, they go chasing all these guys. Because we see them running around in 80s shorts, which everybody did wear back then, and they're all sweaty. So when you're an elite level athlete like an Olympian, you want to get down a little bit. So what better place to do that when you're a commando? You go to a roller skating rink.
Honestly, it fit for 80s Hong Kong. You have the arcades, but I mean roller skating. That's a group thing you can do. There was some arcade games in the background you can see if you're watching.
Yep.
But it was a thing you did. You went and like they kept asking, "Hey, do you know how to dance?" That was the whole gig. Like the guys like, "Do you know how to dance?" They're like, "No," or "I don't know how to skate," or like you're like, "No."
Didn't know what the answer was. Come with me.
Yeah. Basically, and each girl would go off. And the last two girls were like, "Oh, who needs them?" And she's like, yeah, and then she gets asked. It's like, oh, what the heck?
Let me ask you this. We're at this point here. We have some training stuff. Okay, maybe not a lot of action. I'm starting to realize Cynthia's not going to be in this for a while. I think that happened in another movie. Okay, fine. Call it deceptive advertising. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm watching all this, and in hindsight, looking at it now, I'm going, yeah, it did look like they needed to have a male team there because one, it does provide some action later on, as well as the final scene, but it also establishes the women and how they do things differently than men. But they have to get through all that, become a team unit, and that's really what the story's about. So the drama part they definitely do in there. I'm not saying it's bad, but if you're expecting a bunch of tough, badass guys like Predator talking guy shit and chewing stuff and spitting, not going to work. But it's rare RDV that I get put off. It's rare RDV that I'm off balance. It's also extremely rare, no pun intended with the extreme there, RDV, that I go, fuck, I didn't see that coming at all. The ninja blown up, okay, maybe a little unsettled. I was not expecting a musical in this particular scene here at the roller skating rink. I didn't know what to make of it. I admit, I was stunned.
That's, like I said,
it comes out of nowhere. You don't feel it building or nothing.
So this is Jackie Chan production, and you've always watched My Lucky Stars. There's been some kind of stuff where you get a group of guys, they're bonded, they're drunk, they'll sing together, and this just kind of randomly happened there. And it was over the top, just silliness. And that's kind of what some of these movies are. And when I first introduced to the male inspector and the way he approaches the girl, and then how his unit responds to him, teasing him, I knew right there it's going to be one of the silly kind of with some seriousness, but
right.
It's basically it is kind of like Police Academy in a way. I can't explain it anywhere more better than that.
Hijinks.
Hijinks.
Shenanigans too.
And not expecting this, I was, like you two, I was like, oh, Cynthia Rothrock is billed second on IMDb, but then so I'm like, okay, let's see this, what's going on. And of course, we said we get that first scene with her, and then we don't see her to basically roughly towards the second half of the movie. Honestly, I think they didn't want to go on Madam, Yes, Madam. They would have done Yes, Madam. It would have just been her and Cynthia Rothrock, and I kind of figured they didn't want to do that. They didn't want it because it's called, she's training a team. They have Cynthia Rothrock in there more movie. It would probably just derail from the rest of the cast.
Agreed.
Yeah, and like I said, this gave the cast the chance to stand out. You know, there was the shy girl, there was a girl who was I'm like, you know, special because I won all these awards stuff, and she wanted to get kicked out. I love how Madame Wu just basically is like, all right, let's go meet up on the field here at night, you know, and tell her and you this girl who basically helped cause him. She's the weaker link.
Yep.
Come up front and get this the bratty girl who basically wants her to get off the team. It's like, okay, now you're here. Tell everybody what you told me, you know? And I love how she humiliates her. And then, like, let's take it on a vote. Should we kick her out? You know, keep her, and everybody who's in favor of kicking out. So the snotty girl says, yes, you know, this, no one else.
Yeah.
I love it. And just like, we'll transfer you, you know? I love that shit, you know, because
there's a couple of things I think about the scene that's actually pretty serious and powerful. And I kind of want to mention it because, again, let's kind of set the stage here. We're in the late 80s.
Yeah.
Hong Kong is still completely anti-communist. It hadn't turned over yet, which would be the late 90s. The feminism thing is really not there. It's obviously an excuse to have these women in here.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about times too, not just women who can kick ass, whether they win or lose. It's people, even if they fail, they're working towards a positive outcome. They're trying not to take the lowest common denominator out when it comes to things. And these women are going through their training montages. You know, the 80s style in America is slightly different or Canada. That's okay. You got the guy who's in charge of the guy team. Yeah, he's got the hots for the trainer and all that too. And it's a side thing. It's a little dumb and goofy. The guys are acting like dumb, goofy guys. But they're not assholes. They don't stick out as horrible alpha males. They're just young professional people that are elite level athletes. So you get some shenanigans with the guys that, again, will make sense later on. And then you find out, man, do I really want to watch a bunch of ladies going through all this shit when they're probably going to get their ass kicked by guys? And we know there's going to be a training mission at the end. But what happened here, whether you talk about the military way, especially in the United States, of breaking people down and forming them into a unit, or you do it Cynthia's way, which we'd call old school, which we'll get into here in a moment. There's a lot of different ways of putting it together. So I did appreciate whoever wrote the script, even with Jackie Chan's background, growing up in a communist country, being forced to at a young age go into the opera because his talents were there. That was deliberate. And I didn't have a problem with it because it almost takes a little bit of a serious tone relative to the rest of the show, this last part to it, because the ladies, you see them, something triggers in them. They start doing better together. But then I think the turning point of this movie going into the last act is when they line the guys up on one side of the dojo and the ladies on the other, and they go to fight it out. There's some damn good action here. At this point, I wasn't sure if I was going to get any more, but oh my God, this is good stuff.
You bring up the writer. The writer only wrote 2 movies, and this is Kam Fu Cheng. He wrote this movie, and then in 1998 he wrote a movie called Hitman, starring for Jet Li.
Okay.
So I might have to check that movie out. You know, when it's 90s, if it's normal Hollywood, I really don't want to watch it. But if it's Hong Kong, I'm kind of curious to see. Like I said, I watched In the Line of Duty series. You know, after Donnie Yen, it was number 4. But then it started going into the 90s. You know, it's just Cynthia Khan was still there, and it was all right. But you could tell things were changing, the way they shot things. You're seeing more cell phones, you know, and it was just kind of like the plots were kind of like just repeating. I was just like, okay, and it's you can see the 90s has an effect even in Hong Kong. But like I said, I'm always open to more 90s movies, and I know Cynthia Rothrock started going into more 90s action movies too, and then even some dramas.
And here in the United States too, I'd like to point out, it's a valid comment, especially for our international listeners. We had some people from Germany, reach out to us about Colombo. So I thought that was interesting. I know we have a noticeable Asian community here, Philippines, and others. But the thing that you're saying is so true. But in the United States, no matter where they would get the product from overseas, you're right, they would change people's name on there, like Cynthia, to give it more rub, because all of a sudden, if we release it on VHS, now we can get more because she's hotter. Those things happen. But in the United States, you definitely have that second market where things like this could become more available. It would be hard to watch a film like this in the United States for the most part, unless it was an A-lister like Jackie Chan, who by this point had already come over and been over here for a long time, 70s going to 80s, and then he did it a second time, right? So, without saying we're experts on the subject matter, we're just talking trends here. It is interesting because Cynthia came at that time where Girls with Guns were definitely a Hong Kong thing, but you definitely had your secondary market here in the States with VHS, with DVD, with late night TV and all that too. So this is a film that's perfect for that. It's a great B-level film.
I don't think he could have made this movie in the early '90s in the Hollywood. They would change
No,
too much, and there's really no actresses that stand out to me that would actually work well together. It would be Disneyfied.
and it's a shame because Cynthia is just so good at what she does. I think things here turn because when she shows up on the scene and basically tests the metal of all of them, and now they're all wearing the red shirts, which makes me think of Star Trek and everybody dies.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm going to give you guys an assignment because you'd mentioned some of the great training sequences of you guys are lazy, you're soft. She puts them on planks and they're standing there, and you're like, you're going to run as fast as you can. She lights on fire. I don't care what anybody says or how dopey it is because, yeah, you would jump off the side and not get burned. It's a fucking cool scene. I haven't seen it in any other movie, and it's got women doing it. But one of the best scenes to me, even though I think the final fight's great, my favorite scene, I'm not going to say the best, although I could probably argue it is the special ops mission during the day where they're in the middle of Hong Kong Bay and they're supposed to, as a group, find the mysterious person that's carrying the red rose and get that person and bring them in.
Yep.
So they're walking around and it's the middle of the day. It looks like it's lunchtime. You get to see all the mountains in the background, those really tall buildings that you see. I mean, this is just a phenomenal set piece. It looks very authentic. It's not CGI'd. It's just, you feel like you're on top of them watching it. And of course, it's Cynthia basically saying, oh, you got to come get me. And she is phenomenal in this sequence here, beating the shit out of everybody and all this stuff. This is a great action scene. Totally different than the other ones we had before. At this point, I'm going, okay, this movie's getting a lot better.
Yeah, like I said, Cynthia Khan, obviously, when she comes in, she steals the show. And like I said, I mean, it makes sense why they kind of like had it in the beginning, lure you in. Now, some people say, like, wow, this sucks. That's a cop out. I expected Cynthia Khan, and, like, and the middle part sucked. I can appreciate what they did for as far as the actresses. Like I said, they weren't just kind of like throwaway characters. Obviously, I've never met any of these, or not, but I mean, I've never seen a lot of these actresses before.
Yeah, you couldn't name them by hand.
But they were believable.
Yes, I agree totally.
And you seen them running. Like I said, that scene, the workout scenes, the training, the shooting scenes, all that stuff was like, it just seems very authentic,
The other thing, too, to your point about being authentic, and I think this is really smart on your part to say it, but when you were talking about them training and being authentic and stuff, I mentioned them, sweating and running and all that, not to be sexy about it.
Yeah.
But when you see women go through training early on, even if they're slight and they're athletic, they're thin, they're not fat, they're not scrawny, they're athletes, right? It allows a little bit of believability later on when you go to see one of them to fight, because all 7 of them are going to fight. You don't have enough screen time for that, right? So when they do get a chance to do stuff, then you're like, I've seen this character, whether I like her or not, nor what she's supposed to represent, in training montages, working with other people. And we get zip lines in here too. We see them working together as a team, and like I say, the switch is flipped. So you're like, you know what? Zip lines, I'm telling you, I don't know if you've ever been on any, or you've been on a few. It's exhilarating. It's incredible. But I've seen people on zip lines, and I've seen people on walking cords, like going over chasms and stuff like that, where something gets stuck and they can't move and they have to wait. Then the fucking panic gets in. So yeah, these ladies are doing something, and we're like, oh, it's a playground kind of thing. But it's still kind of cool to see them just doing stuff. It makes me believe a bit more when they're throwing punches or working together as a team against bad guys later on.
And for those who are just tuning in now and you're curious about where to watch this movie, you can watch it for free over in Tubi. Tubi has it's actually in the normal Cantonese language, and it has English subtitles. I believe it's I found an English version through let's just say not very legal means.
Well, YouTube I think has the English one, but actually the Cantonese one sounds better to me.
Yeah, honestly, I was watching the English with the Cantonese English subtitles. So they have the subtitles. So basically, if you're watching the Cantonese language, I still had the English subtitles on the thing. So I was watching. So it's kind of cool to see what words they changed for the English dub.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, and I'm saying not for me. I'm just saying for me. I watched it with the English dub, and it had the Cantonese subtitles for English.
We've seen worse.
Yeah, and it was fun. Like I said, I have fun with these movies because, man, I feel like for American movies, you've kind of what you've seen some of these movies, you've seen all of them. Like I said, I was so glad that Jackie Chan, went back to Hong Kong,
right?
After you could see the difference between when he went to go to the US to do his movies, and you could tell how it just looks so awful. It's like the equivalent of watching a Jackie Chan movie in the United States, is like watching Cobra Kai and thinking that's real fighting.
You know, I brought up recently, and I think
You know,
we have disagreed on it just in terms of entertainment value. I think that the Roadhouse recent remake is utter trash, even though it looks great and it's a great setting. And everybody's oohing and on about how lean he looks in this and that. And he's maybe $170. Okay, great. But you know what? I'm
Yeah.
tired of people looking good, and I don't want these really weird looking choreographed fights where they talk about all these innovations with the camera angles and this and that. You know,
Yeah.
whenever we've seen the Hong Kong stuff, whether it's stunt doubles, whether it's uh, running up a hill with carrying stuff. That's what I want to see. I want to see humans performing. I don't want to see stunt doubles. I don't want to see quick cuts. I want to see them out there in the sun, whether it's 50 degrees that day in Hong Kong on the tanker or 100. I don't know. I don't care. But they're out there. They're sweating. It looks real. That's what I'm buying into. That's what I'm paying my money for. That believability part to it. So as far as this movie goes, I mean, like I say, it's been a little weird with the musical, but great action. It's getting a little serious now. Then they're called in for both the men's and the women's captains to say, you know, guys, Cynthia makes her presence here in the last bit of the movie. Good for her for only having probably 2 or 3 days worth of shooting, maybe longer because of the fights. But we've got this international jewel thief. Damn it, back to back artist stuff. I'm in heaven here too between our Columbo episode 4, season 1 that we just did live with artwork, and here where you know what, you can't go wrong with something as simple as a shit ton of stolen jewels. Am I right? So you're going to have all these ladies dress up beautifully to do the walking down the thing and showing them off, and they don't know who the person is. They don't know how many of them are going to be there, but both teams are going to be there, and their job is to protect the diamonds and also capture any of the baddies. Now, it's simple. I don't care if it doesn't make much sense. And this last scene, which we'll talk about, I'll just set it up and then hand it to you. We get that major open, well, I have to call opera house scene, like an old saloon. We saw it in some of the Jackie Chan's thing. He knows, God damn it, put yourself in a really ritzy looking place with a lot of chairs and tables so things can break and snap, and plants and stairs so people can jump and all that, because there is some absolutely incredible stunts in here. And I'm not even going to get into them right now. But the point is this guy shows up, and I'm like, is that the bad guy? This dude, like, he's about 5'4". He's got the really insultingly American, before ahead of its time, peroxided blonde hair. And you're like, this guy's a wuss. He can't be that. And the Asian woman he's with might be tall. Maybe she's got 6-inch heels on. I don't know. But she's like a head taller than him. I'm like, are they trying to make this guy swishy or not, or what? But you know what who reminded me of?
Who's that?
The best sneer game guy of all time. And of course, I'm talking about the guy in Black Sails who was also in Lost in Space, whose name is not on my top of my tongue right now. But he was the bad guy in Die Another Day. Remember, with the sword fighting with Madonna and all that? And there, the really bad guy that changed his face, that guy's a great actor. And I'm like, wait, this isn't him. This is just some chump. Yeah. Because when they get to fighting here in a little bit, it's badass. And I don't know if that's supposed to be cat style or whatever, because it's kind of what we would call in America a non-masculine art form, because it's not like dragon or tiger.
And it's not cat, like a cat, kind of like,
because he would like hiss and meow, and he put his hands up like little claws, right?
Yeah, it's so weird.
I love seeing different weapons, different styles. Hey, you know what? All props to the guy. He was very good in here. I was blown away. I did not see that coming.
And like I said, you see him. He does his little, his little stance here, and then Cynthia Rothrock does her little, like, I was like, oh, that's on. That's like that's basically like, now we're gonna get some Street Fighter combat here. He said, and of course, anytime Cynthia Khan's in a movie and you see a table full of swords and, like, just like just any weapons at all, basically, she's gonna start using them. And of course, she picks up a sword. So, and then the first time for me seeing her use a sword fight in anything movie was when we reviewed the Magic Crystal. Right. And she just came out of nowhere and she was using a sword for fighting. So it was really cool to see that brought back in, because she's got the dirty hairy gun. She's got the freaking magnum.
If you look at it, guys, I'm dead serious about it. If you're familiar with Clint Eastwood from the 60s and 70s, the Dirty Harry movies, the franchises, which deals with government corruption and progressive policies and criminal stuff. It's a vigilante film. It was pertinent, really big in the 70s here, tonally speaking. So he has this big gun, which everybody freaked out about. And then Bronson got his own, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
Hers is bigger than all of them.
Yeah. So not only that, the main character for me who stood out the most, though, was Jean, played by Ellen Chan. She's there in the white kimono there.
Okay, yeah.
she took out of all the recruits, she became kind of like the most of the leader, kind of sense. And she even gets a fight scene here where she basically doing a training thing with the male inspector for the Tiger team, and she pretty much kicks his ass. And then when he finally like, he pins her, and he's like going to punch. He's like, "Why'd you hit me?" He's like, "Because you're such a pretty girl." And then she hits him in the face, gives him a black eye.
Yeah.
Like I said, throughout there, she's kind of like, she's almost like a den mother in a sense. I love how she sticks up for some of the other girls. One girl gets bullied because they stole her. Because what girls do, girls, especially in the '80s stuff and all, they're kind of like high school girls in a sense.
Well, sure. Don't mess with my man. Don't steal my stuff.
So one girl was writing a letter to her boyfriend, and she got a letter back. And then these two bully girls are picking on her, and like, she's got a letter from her boyfriend, and they're like, well, Madam Wu wants to go see you. So then the girl, not being that bright, leaves the room. They quick go in her locker, and they take her letter and start reading it aloud. Now the guy is kind of a weirdo. It's stuff that you hear that he's saying to her,
Well, let me ask you: do you think
the
girls were making that up, or do you think it was really written? Because that stood out as being very odd and not in a funny way.
Who knows? At this point, it was kind of like watching Grease. Rizzo going around and just basically just going to start teasing everybody and stuff.
Right.
Making fun of Sandra Dee. But it was great to see, them come in there and it's like, what the hell's wrong with you? And just someone actually challenging. So I said, there's bullies and then there's people standing up to bullies, and it's not like this is today's today we're the bully, we're gonna just make them over the top bullies. No, these are just kind of like your everyday you'd see at school, back in the day. This isn't Hollywood produced bullies. And like I said, it wasn't meant to be like it's an anti-bully movie. It just showed that there's camaraderie, teamwork, working together. These are girls that basically had never really had to do much of their life. They're just kind of like used to the guys doing stuff for them, and they were being whipped into shape. Let
me ask you this as we get ready to talk about this final fight here.
Yeah.
I know some people watching it today, depending on your beliefs, we're not really a political channel. It's not what we do. We don't hate watch. We look for what we like, don't like it if it's effective. I found it interesting, not from a feminist particular point of view. I found it interesting and actually appropriate that, the girls are there. They're all dressed up, looking gorgeous and all that. A lot of them are wearing the jewels. They're coming down and posing.
Makeup, yeah.
Yeah, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, being undercover. I love the fact that the guys, even though they're fairly confident and all that, they all get captured first because they kind of have to, don't they, to give girls a chance to shine? It makes sense. It's not a feminist, the guys can't do anything.
No. This is totally a comedy. This is your typical Jackie Chan comedy. And whether I don't know if Jackie Chan had involved in this, but maybe the guy who was writing this for this movie had probably seen some of the movies that are being made, quality movies, and decided, what, comedy sells, and we have women here, let's not make it a drama, because nobody wants a drama. So we'll add a little humor into it. And it was actually like well-placed humor. It wasn't your MCU forced humor. Like, we can see today and then majority of movies.
The bad dude's girl.
Yeah.
I'm assuming she's somebody. I did not look her up. But when she's wearing this dress, it's like perfect. And it's like, I didn't know she was going to get in a fight because I didn't think she was there as eye candy. And when you look at her legs, like, holy shit, it's not pretty. She looks like the other girl. She looks like she could kick some ass. So out of all the people I didn't think that would be fighters, it was Peroxide Head Boy, who's, again, impressed me and all that. Because what happens is, you get two of the dummy guys dropping coins to look up the girl's skirt, under the pretense of seeing if she has a gun because they know it's the bad guy. And it's like, okay, this is kind of dumb. This is kind of stupid. But then they start getting rounded up and caught. And so pretty soon you're seeing them getting picked off one by one without anything happening. And then, of course, as a guy, this is an American thing. I don't know if it's international. Whenever you go to the restroom, never, ever stand in the urinal, whether it's a trough or a stall or something like that, next to somebody. Right, you're going to get in a fight and something happens, because this is where this little 140-pound peroxide head guy just goes ape shit. I'm like, oh, my God, I couldn't believe they did this.
Actor's name is Jeffrey Falcon.
I'm definitely going to look at what he did before, because this...
he stunts. He's also a writer. He's License to Steal, Prince of the Sun, Burning Ambition, and Six String Samurai, the first four that he's known for. Mainly 90s movies, 89. But I mean, yeah. So he's also in the second movie as well. I don't know if he's returning as a recap.
Okay.
But I mean, but majority of his stuff is Hong Kong movies. So, and some of them are actually pretty high rate, But
I would definitely watch
5, 6, 7. So
he's involved in.
Like IMDb listed this as a 6 out of 10. which is means appropriate for me, because usually I don't agree with IMDb ratings, but this actually worked out pretty well. Because I've watched movies that said like, oh, it's a 7.0, and it's like, I go watch it, it's like this was like a 5 to me. But I've also watched like stuff like Outlaw of Gore, and I think it should be retired because some of those movies are just fun.
And they don't make those anymore.
No, and the reason I think they're ranked so low is because, well, people look down on those movies. They're distasteful. So, but anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to watching the sequel to this. If I could find it on Blu-ray or Amazon Prime.
It was successful enough to definitely spawn a franchise.
I mean, obviously, Cynthia Rothrock coming back, it to me might hurt the movie, but I don't know. We still got the same. We got Sibelle Hu goes in there, and it looks like some of the other girls are still in there too as well. But definitely looking forward to looking at some of the other Hong Kong movies coming out. If there's movies you going through our martial art playlist, if you find a movie in there that we haven't watched yet, let us know down in the comment section below. Or if you're watching right now, thank you for watching us. Anthony's here, Jim Sorensen, and a few other people that haven't commented. Yeah, we're always looking for new stuff to watch. I mean, like we watched the Jackie Chan Dragon Fist. Never seen that before.
Never heard
Serious
of it.
Jackie Chan film. Go check out our review and then go check out the movie if you can. I'm looking forward to this watching more this stuff, whether it's Jackie Chan or just obscure people. Like we watch East Condors. I had Sammo Hung's in there, but I mean, like we had other people in there too. So I mean, I'm always looking forward to watching martial art movies I've never watched before, because there's always something cool you're gonna find.
Yeah, and that's what we try to experiment with here too. And the final fight's fairly simple in that ladies start coming down, the guys are pretty much all there, so there's some tension building, and so some of the girls coming down are undercover and they're wearing the jewels, and so Cynthia's like keep your head alert and all that too. But then the guy that's doing the camera or the big lights on them and all that, and those things are hot. He pulls out a big gun and starts shooting, and everything comes up. And then the one girl, and I forget her name, she's got the black dress on, very beautiful looking. She ends up being at the top there, her and a partner, and you see them do the climbing stunt that you mentioned before, which is really cool.
I think that is Ellen Chan.
It might be. I'd have to look it up.
Because it looks like the same girl that was fighting in you see the cover there when she was fighting with the inspector.
Yeah.
Almost.
Well, they get into the fight with Peroxide Boy, and he does the cat thing. He's, his gun gets knocked away. Okay, fine. That's the excuse for getting into the weapons and everything else. This is a great fight sequence. And they are going so fast in here. I'm like, we don't see this in American film.
Yeah. And what's great about the end, the payoff, is that it actually is believable towards the end. You see them training through this stuff, what they've gone through and stuff. So when they first start finding this guy, the numbers get to him, even though he's a good fighter. But eventually, like 6 or 7 women, who all know karate or just whatever, they're working together as teammates, and doing tag team moves. It actually makes sense. Had this been a bigger dude, though, it would have been a little bit more tougher, and it would evolve more about Cynthia Khan.
Yeah,
Cynthia Khan was kind of like having some issues with her in this, but I mean, I liked it. I thought it was really good. It really sells what they were doing here. It's creating an elite female units.
The fight with all the weapons. What I like too is that you can argue whether or not Cynthia should take him out one-on-one, girl boss or whatever. But really, you see all the women contributing to what's going on. And this guy might have to be small to make the fights more believable, but he's fast. He doesn't look like an idiot. Once he's fighting, you're like, no, this guy's legit. He's got everything down. And some of the stunts, even though we see 1 or 2 really long jumps down to the ground, we see people flipping over and landing on and breaking the fake glass. But there's one stunt in here that I went, oh my God, I really liked it. And it was in this fight. Back in TNA, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, here in Central Florida, years ago, about 20 years ago, there was a bit wrestler named Monty Brown, the alpha male, and he had what he would call the pounce. And he'd throw you against the ropes and run to you at the side. And basically, it would be like somebody, instead of tackling from head on, would come at you from 90 degrees from the side and slam you. And that was his big finisher. So there's a scene here where Cynthia gets her ass beat, and she's sitting there looking up at the guy, and he goes to jump in the air. And you see him jump in the air to go land on her. And then they go to 11 here. A woman comes out from the screen that you don't even see from right to left, knocks him into the fucking wall, knocks him down. Then they roll his ass down the stairs. Then they both grab him and they run at full speed, holding like his hands on the other side, and run him into a pillar. And I'm like, fuck yeah, this is some good stunt work. This is good violence.
And you see when
Pardon my language.
When he tumbles down the stair, he actually puts his hands up, so he's actually doing flips, protect his neck.
Well, I've never seen that either. You're absolutely right.
That was cool.
Did he have to, or not, or what? Oh my god!
Because normally when Steven tumbles on the stairs, like that's it. You just they cut away from it so you don't see.
Yeah, and it just basically ends with him being wrapped up, and the guys, they're getting ready to get shot. They start figuring out, what the ladies do. They start banging their head, saying how much of a loser they are about stuff like this is dope. Well, they were tapping in Morse code, so they can figure out what to put the charges blowing there and get everybody, and then end movie.
It was great because Sibelle Hu's character, along with the male leader, the inspector, and some other ones, were basically held hostage. So they took them out of the element scene. So basically, you had Cynthia Rothrock was leading the squad. So, honestly, you could say that the two best parts of this movie is the very beginning and the very end, the fight scenes.
Absolutely.
The stunts. But honestly, I said the middle held its own with everything, with the girls, the training scenes, like that.
Yeah.
And just women being women and guys being guys. It made sense. To have, yeah.
It wasn't sexist at all. This is
it wasn't. Because they literally said, like, oh, the guys are going, like, they invite him. He's like, oh, do you really want to go? They know what they're thinking all about us. Looking at us, they're like, oh, well, let's go. And the one girl's like, wait, what? Because that's literally how it is. They're not ditzy. It's called hey, like, girls like having action just as much as guys do. It's like, and I love that. They didn't they could have been like, they would have wrote the guys out, wear pigs, and then they beat up the guys, and that would have been it. No. Like I said, these were actually the guys were actually pretty good, but the main focus was on the girls. Well,
this whole subgenre of 80s, being the 80s guy and you being like the 90s guy. I like to just mention to people that Cannon Films was a thing in the 80s. They had their style. We've talked about Ninja. We talked about our American action stars. We've branched out to check out other cultures, and there's definitely the subculture that, as the 80s action stars, males started to really devolve, despite the fact there's a few that could have kept it on and maybe did in their own way. This girls with guns action kind of thing is kind of cool, and so it was interesting because Cynthia's name pretty much comes at the top of my list. We've done some Amy Johnston films here from a few years ago too, because she's a legitimate martial artist. She's petite, she's a Spitfire, but her dad was legit, she's legit, and so that kind of is what broke the seal on us kind of saying, you know what, let's just try to find some different things. And obviously we've done movies from different countries and all that too, so we don't claim to be experts and know everything, but we just want to be entertained, and we talk about what we think works and what doesn't. That's what we do here on Extreme Movie Show.
For me, I would compare the use of humor in this is the same you got in Eastern Condors. If you watch that movie, it just works.
You could be a kid and watch this and not be like, oh, that's too gross, that's too graphic. You could tell the blood's kind of fakeish. A young kid could watch it. It's not violent like that.
No.
And I hate to say it's better than Police Academy. Police Academy was straight up comedy. This is actually an action thing. This is more serious with little bits of comedy here. I think they could take the American Police Academy squad in a fight.
Without question, especially since David Goldberg's in charge. Jesus, everyone wanted to see him get beat up in the 80s, but he was everywhere.
I was watching for Hightower.
I know. All right, final thoughts.
Good film. What I would rank it as far as me, I honestly 6 out of 10 is pretty good. I think that's fair. It's not the best, but what really brings it up to a 6 for me is the action scenes.
The action is great. If you're a Cynthia fan like I am, you're going to watch it because she's in it, even though she's not in a lot of it. Hopefully that doesn't disappoint you from it. It's a bit refreshing because, like I mentioned there in chat, it's nice to see women get a chance to beat people up and be believable as opposed to the way Hollywood does it today. So it's nice to go back and see some of the same things, the team building, the learning how to get stuff, basically earning the right to beat people up at the end of the movie. And it's right.
No smartphones, none of that crap. There's no people looking at TikTok, taking selfies, none of that shit.
Yeah.
It was great. Like I said, I love before the era of the cell phone. I love when you just have to use the flash bulbs still,
right?
Cameras stuff. I mean, and the music, the synth music they use in this too as well is great. So, as I said, if you're looking for a Cynthia Rothrock movie that's more her in there, I go with Yes, Madam.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I wanted to send a special thank you to some of the new guys from Germany. who joined us because they're big Columbo fans. Apparently, that's a very passionate fan base, and that's cool. We had a lot of fun with that.
It's a good show.
And the newer people here, and of course, the people retweeting, let us know that we exist. This is a lot of fun. So, we wrote down to one suggestion we had in chat earlier. We'll definitely take that under advisement. We'll be live Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Movie to be determined. We will advertise it ahead. So, anything else you need to plug, RDV?
I'll just say this: if those who are watching this and you're also a fan of Columbo, go check out. They reviewed the Prisoner first season. They also reviewed Mission Impossible. So there's always something to watch in here. We're always looking for recommendations for as far as new martial art movies we should watch. Even if the 2000s, if you can legitimately swear that it's good, as great as these, I'll take a gander. I'll get it. We'll probably review it. So
yeah, there you go.
All right, later,
Good luck
guys.
now.